And for more on the G20 summit, I'm joined now from London by Alexander Clackson. He is the founder of the international affairs think tank Global Political Insight with expertise on Russia. Thank you so much for joining us.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
The summit ends later today. What's left on the agenda?
Well, obviously, we have to remember that the purpose of the G20 is the global economy, which is obviously has been in quite a dire situation over the last few years, especially since the 2008 financial crisis. And it's interesting how much the G20 of this year has been politicized and been used to discuss other issues which are usually not on the agenda, such as the Ukrainian crisis, for example, the tensions with Russia, and even climate change, which is another major issue, but which is causing some division among the G20, because obviously Australia is quite keen to keep climate change off the agenda due to the recent laws that they've passed. And of course, Ebola, which is another crisis that the world is facing right now. There have been some reports which have been confirmed that 300 million will be used to fight Ebola, which is obviously positive news. And hopefully the countries which are partaking at the moment will stay on course to unite to fight against this deadly disease.
Alexander, obviously the headlines surrounding the summit right now are all regarding President Putin. As you know, Canadian's Prime Minister had some sharp words telling him to get out. U.S. President Obama also piled on, and the EU is threatening sanctions. Russian President Putin has not cared so much about this in the past. Why would he listen to them now? Is anything changed? Has anything changed?
Well, I would question your claim that he's not cared in the past. I think Putin and Russia generally always try to have positive relations with the West, including the United States. We must remember that Russia has always reached out to the West throughout Putin's leadership, even going back to the year 2000, where Putin said in an interview with the British newspaper that perhaps one day Russia could join NATO. So that gives you an indication that Putin never wanted Russia to be a pariah state. He always wanted to be part of the global community, which is why Russia joined the World Trade Organization, which is why it's joined the G8 to discuss these global issues with the world. However, Russia does have national interests, just like any other country. And Ukraine has been a red line for Russia. See, from Russia's point of view, we have to understand their position here. They don't see this as them being the aggressors. They see what happened in Ukraine as a Western-engineered illegal coup against the former president Yanukovych, and they see this as a way to bring NATO into Ukraine and encircle Russia even further. So from Putin's and Russia's point of view, what they're doing in Ukraine is not attacking, but actually defending their national interest. And for them, that's more important than perhaps dealing with sanctions.
I see. I think a better choice of words would be that he has not blinked. He's pushed back and says that Russia is in no way responsible for any of this all along. He's denied all of the claims made by the West. As you know, Australia lost 28 citizens in flight MH17. Putin tells the Russian news agency that sanctions against his country are against the principle of the World Trade Organization. This is what he said publicly. At this point, Australia has been upset with him because of what happened, the downing of flight MH17. Other Western countries, who are his friends at the G20?
Sure. Well, just a couple of points on this. First, MH17. We have to remember that investigations are still going on right now, and it's not yet exactly clear what happened or who is responsible. Of course, the West is claiming that it was the pro-Russian militants that shot down the plane, and that may well turn out to be true. But we have to remember that it's not been confirmed yet. And I think it's important in these instances to stick with the phrase innocent before proven guilty. So I think from Russia's point of view, they'll be disappointed that sanctions have been placed on them without the investigations confirming who was responsible for the tragic event of MH17. Your point regarding Russia's friends at the G20, if you actually look at the group, it's fascinating how it's almost divided into two. You have the Western camp, so you have America and its allies, including Japan and Saudi Arabia and so on, and then you have the emerging markets, if you like, driven primarily by the BRICS, so China, Russia, India, South Africa, and Brazil. And these countries are obviously more than happy to trade with Russia and to keep closer relationships, especially China. We've seen over the last few weeks that Russia and China have signed numerous amounts of huge deals, especially in energy. So China and Russia are building a very close alliance, and I think other BRIC members are joining them in this. So I would question the assumption that Russia is isolated. I don't think they are.
Alexander Clackson, thank you so much for your insight and expertise live in London.